Good morning. Sorry for the good evening.
Been a long day.
Been a long day. Sorry for being a couple of minutes late, but welcome to tonight's council meeting for Tuesday, November 4th. If everybody could silence their electronic devices, please. And we will start with our land acknowledgement. As we gather here today, let us be reminded that the community in which we live, work, and play is situated on traditional, unceded Algonquin First Nation territory. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Anishinaabe people and express our respect and support for their rich history and culture. Could I get a call to order, please?
All members of council are present.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the approval of the agenda. Recommended motion is that the agenda be approved as presented. Could I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Kavanaugh, seconded by Councillor Comley. Somebody got to raise their hand. Any issues or discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest or general nature thereof can be made now or at any point throughout the meeting by notifying the clerk. Item number 5 is approval of the minutes. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That the council minutes dated October 21st, 2025 be accepted as presented.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Hinton, second by Councillor Sakaspina. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Moves us to the consent report. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That council receive the consent report dated November 4th, 2025.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Councillor Comley. Is there any discussion on the consent report? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moves us to bylaws, of which we have 2. First, bylaws to establish fees and charges. Recommend a motion, please.
That bylaw 83-2025 to establish fees and charges for services provided by the town be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Tennant, seconded by Councillor Hinton. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Second is to amend the procedural bylaw. Recommended motion, please.
That bylaw 84-2025 to amend procedural bylaw 104-2023 agenda publication be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Comley, seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Finishes us with bylaws and moves us on to announcements. I have one that I'm going to say now, one that I'll say at the end, giving other council members the opportunity. Just want to remind everybody that next week we have Remembrance Day, and hope to see everybody out on Remembrance Day at Memorial Park, where the cenotaph is. It's always a very nice ceremony, very well attended ceremony. So please, if you have the opportunity, come out and bring your family and support our veterans and our military. I will open it up now to the rest of the council if you have anything to announce. Councillor Sakaspina.
Okay, Saturday, November 8th, put that on your itinerary. We have 10 to 2 St. Mary's Bazaars where they're making fresh tortillas to sell. 11 a.m. to 2 St. James Snowflake Bazaar. And both of these, St. Mary's and St. James, have lunch, so come on down for lunch. 10 to 4, if you're at St. James, just head a little way down to the Carleton Place Museum for their Christmas pop-up thrift and vintage shoppers holidays gift, unique, budget-friendly, and sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sakaspina. Councillor Kavanaugh.
Yeah, busy weekend. Also on November 8th and 9th, the Itty Bitty Artisan and Art Show is from 10 to 4:30 at the arena both days. A great option for gift giving. And then November 8th, the Mini Maker Craft Fair returns to the library from 10 to 1. I think it's the third one, but that's a great event. It features children's crafts and handmade items, and a great opportunity to go out and get some early shopping done. So I encourage you to go out and support the young people being creative.
Thank you for bringing that one up, Councillor Kavanaugh. It is an amazing event. The kids they work so hard at this. They're so proud of what they're doing. They're learning about economy. They're learning about commerce, everything. It is just, it's one of my favorite things to go to. And I will be there on Saturday to kind of mill about and support the kids if you have an opportunity. It's a great event. And is there anybody else? So lastly, I just wanted to say that former local citizen and owner of the Carleton Place Canadians, Jason Clark, who is now the head coach of the Cape Breton Eagles in the QJMHL, will be in town with his team next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They play in Gatineau on Thursday and Friday, but they are going to be on Monday here in Carleton Place at our arena practicing with the junior A team. Good opportunity for our hockey fans and friends of Jason, obviously, and who want to see a very good junior A team practice. Head on down to the arena, and we'll post some stuff on social media so that everybody knows what time that he's on the ice at. And then he is playing in Gatineau on Thursday and Friday if you want to go and support him or his team. And that is it. With that, we move on to our confirmatory bylaw. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That bylaw 85-2025, confirmation of council proceedings for November 4th, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass.
Thank you. A mover. Deputy Mayor Tenant, Councillor Hinton seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Brings us to adjournment, and recommended motion is that the meeting be adjourned at 6:09. Moved by Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Councillor Sekaspina. All in favor? We are adjourned. It moves us to Committee of the Whole with Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, Mayor Randall, and welcome to Committee of the Whole for November 4th, 2025. Call to order. I will now call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order at 6:10 p.m. Approval of agenda. The suggested motion is that the agenda be approved as amended to include a closed session. Moved by Councillor Comley, second by Councillor Kavanaugh. Any discussions? See none. All in favor? Opposed? See none. And that motion is carried. Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary conflict of interest and general nature thereof. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or conflicts of interest in the agenda this evening? Councillor Sekaspina.
Yes, I have one for 5D, which is the Strategic Properties Development Permit Bylaw Amendments as my son's own property in certain places. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Sekaspina. And Deputy Mayor Tennant.
I have a conflict with the same item. I've got, how would I say this? I reached out to our integrity commissioner to ask if I had a conflict on the item based on me living near one of the properties, and he advised that I should declare a conflict when we get into the details of discussing, what we're doing here with the strategic property. So I'm going to declare on this item.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tennant. Any other conflicts of interest? I hope not. We may not have quorum. Thank you. Minutes to be approved and received. The suggested motion is that the Committee of the Whole minutes dated October 21st, 2025 be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Mayor Randall. Any discussions? See none. All in favor? Opposed? None. Thank you. And that motion is carried. And we are on to reports. Our first report of the evening is the Carleton Place Fire Department and Municipal Law Enforcement 2025 third quarter activity report, communication 136112. And Dave Joy, Acting Director of Protected Services, will go through this with us.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much. For the fire department, it was a very busy third quarter. We attended many pub ed events through the third quarter. The Ocean Wave Fire Company Association had their annual MD boot drive, raised $14,000. That's a record for them. That's an amazing day. We had 3 of our newer firefighters complete their training, which is about 300 hours of training. So they're fully certified now, which helps us tremendously. We also collect every 3 years, we collect old gear from the county, and North Granville helped us out this year for Firefighters Without Borders. So we donate probably 3 pickup loads of old PPE, bunker gear, helmets, gloves for it stays in Canada if possible, and otherwise it goes across the world. It's a really good event that we do. We hired 4 new firefighters third quarter. I mentioned this last quarter. August, we broke another record for fire calls. 31 fire calls, 39 overall events. That's a lot for us. And this year's slated to break the record for last year's record. So it's going to be quite busy. The law enforcement had their annual end of summer training for the crossing guards, went well. Emergency management, we monitored this summer all the heat situations we had, and we posted numerous times online. Be prepared and stay inside if you can. Staff review on the emergency plan. There's no changes to the plan, and the annual compliance is due in December. That's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dave. I will read the suggested motion. The council receive as information the Acting Director of Protective Services report on the third quarter activities of the Carleton Place Fire Department and Municipal Law Enforcement Services dated November 4th, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder on that? Councillor Atkinson, Councillor Sekaspina. Is there any discussion? Councillor Atkinson.
I just wanted to thank Dave. I know the last time we had a quarterly report, I asked for more information about animal control, and I noticed we got it this time. So thanks a lot.
That was just for you, Councillor. You're welcome.
Any further discussion or questions? Mayor Randall.
Thank you for the report, Dave, and as much as Jeff appreciates it, I do as well on the animal control. I noticed that our false alarms are still fairly high. What are the false alarms? Is there something that's taking up the majority of these things? Are they a variety of reasons that we're going? Just curious on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Most of the false alarms are expired smoke alarms or batteries, but we're getting quite a few carbon monoxide alarms now lately as well. So we talked about this, I think, last quarter as well. We want to always educate. So we always act like every call is a call. We leave the truck fully packed up, tools in the hand, and we will always educate the public as best we can in pub ed events and as we're going to calls. So majority are smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms we're dealing with.
And thank you. So if there's smoke alarms, are these ones that are like wired in and just getting sent off automatically, or are these people hearing an alarm, calling 911 and you're dispatched?
Yes and yes. I wish I had a better answer for you, Mayor, but yeah, a lot of them are interconnected to a system and they call 911 right away, or someone's walking by and they hear that the alarm's going off, and when we go there, do a 360, enter the property if we see smoke. Otherwise we err inside of caution. But yeah, that's what it is, fortunately.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Dave. In similar fashion, I'm curious about, I see that the number of calls and inquiries, whether that's phone calls, walk-ins, and emails, is 781 to date, year to date, which I can imagine takes a lot of administrative time. And of those, only 157 resulted in any kind of action, which is like 20%. So I'm curious if those calls and inquiries are all, the question is their expectation is that it should result in action, or are these just general information about the department? I'm just curious what those 780, the majority would.
Thank you, Councillor. It's a bit of both, unfortunately. Again, people will call for information about their animals or cars or etc. And other ones are calling, because they maybe got a ticket and inquiring what they can and can't do about the ticket. But I would say it's 50-50 for inquiries, what they can and can't do, and other parts, how do I take care of this ticket?
Just as a follow-up, it would be interesting, and I'm not asking for even more detail, but a little bit more, if we kind of had a sense of what category in general those things fell into to better gear our education, maybe CP Scoop post, maybe whatever, if like we knew that 50% of those calls were about how do I deal with a ticket, maybe we could do a blast of it explaining that and then save your people some time and effort, but just that sort of information might be handy.
I totally agree. And every day we want to get better, and I will take that back to the workers, my bylaw officers. And next time I come, I'll have a better accurate number for you, what is going on with that. But we will definitely do that. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? See none. All in favor of the suggested motion? Opposed? See none. Thank you. That motion is carried. Thanks, Dave. Our next report is a financial report, which brings us to September 30th, 2025. It's communication 136113. And we have Teresa McConkey, our treasurer, to give us that report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This report is up to September 30th, which means that 3/4 of the year have gone by. We're really trucking along pretty well. We have some revenue variances. The biggest one seems to be the administration, but largely that is because we've already billed for the entire year worth of taxes. You will see a bit of a surplus in that line given the interest. Interest rates didn't drop as much as we thought they might, and we haven't outlaid our cash on the treatment plant projects as quickly as they were anticipated to. So we've got a little better balance there than we anticipated. So that's good. And then social and family services, that would be our childcare. Attendance, our rooms are full now, and we kind of used last year's actuals to create the budget. So we've done better. Now that's offset entirely by extra salaries and expenses in the lines below. You'll also see that there. Overall, though, I think we'll come in with a little bit of a surplus in operating. And then throughout the year, council has made approvals on, projects brought forward outside of the budget to the tune of a savings actually overall of 530,000. However, most of that is either development charges funded or water and sewer funded, not taxes. So the tax impact of the changes is actually a deficit of 207,000. So that I'm confident will be covered off by any surplus in our operating. So we should be in really good shape. And part of what that is we just got word that we have a WSI rebate, which is they have a surplus. So they've actually backdated it and given us money for 2024 and 2025. I found this out after this report was delivered. So, and it's 61% of our premiums that they're giving back to us. So for 24, it was 123,000. For 25, it's 137,000. So that'll be a surplus bonus. And then the budget documents that you already have, we anticipate that we're going to get that again in 2026. So I'll bring that forward on Thursday.
Good. Thank you very much for that, Teresa. I will read the suggested motion, then open up for discussions or questions. Suggested motion is that council receive as information the financial report from the treasurer to September 30th, 2025. I can get a mover and seconder on that. Moved by Councillor Kavanagh, seconded by Deputy Mayor Tennant. Is there any questions or discussion for Teresa? Mayor Randall.
Thank you for the report, Teresa. Big discrepancies always jump out at me when I see a zero in something. I always want to inquire about it. In the revenue section of protection police, that's 0% of the budget. Just curious as to what that is or why that is.
Yep, I can answer that off the top of my head. It is because the revenue was for the police detachment board, the Lanark County new detachment board that Diane was administering, which is now moved to the county. So we will not receive that revenue, but we will also not spend the expenses that were included as well.
I had PSB written down. I was hoping that was what it was, but thank you. That was that excellent report as always. Thank you very much for the update. That's all I have.
Any other questions or discussions? See none. All in favor of the suggested motion? Opposed? See none. And that motion has passed. Thanks, Teresa. And we are moving on to parking restrictions on Neelan Street, communication 136114. We have Guy Bourgon, Director of Public Works, to outline that for us. Guy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was approached about a week and a half ago from the Lanark County Paramedic Service regarding problems they were having leaving their site because of increased parking and increased traffic on Neelan. And when you look at the street now with the hospital expansion and the new paid parking system that the hospital have, you can see that there is a heck of a lot of parking going on there. And you can see how their vehicles would have a hard time leaving quickly and responding to emergencies. So it was a bit of a no-brainer to bring this report forward just to restrict parking in front of their entrance so they can get in and out as quickly as they need to.
Great, thank you for that, Guy. I will read the suggested motion. The council pass a bylaw to amend traffic and parking, bylaw 46-2003, to restrict parking on Neelan Street as identified in the report prepared by the Director of Public Works dated November 4th, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Comley, seconded by Mayor Randall. Is there any discussions or questions for Guy this evening on this? See none. All in favor of the suggested motion? Opposed? See none, and that motion is carried. Thank you, Guy. Moving right along quickly this evening. Loving it. Strategic Properties, Development Permit Bylaw Amendments, Communication 136115. We have Nikki Dwyer, Director of Development Services, to go through this with us. Nikki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try not to take up too much of your time and keep things moving like I have so well already tonight. This is the conclusion of our interim control bylaw process for strategic properties. As council is aware, this has been a lengthy undertaking involving a great deal of consultation both with property owners as well as the community at large and those immediately within the vicinity of the sites. What I am proposing to you tonight is a amendment to the bylaw that affects the existing strategic properties. Council has already directed not to proceed with identifying new strategic properties, so we've left that out. For the sake of clarity, when we started this discussion, we had talked about doing an OPA and a DPA, and the purpose of that was to accommodate new sites to be added. As we are not adding new sites, we don't have to do the OPA. We are only doing a DPA at this point. In looking at the changes that we made, most of the changes I'd say were classified as those that were adding definition and clarity to the way that we interpret the sites. They are all unique in and of themselves, and particularly the lot property lines and where they front within the community are all very different. So you'll find that site-specific provisions have been added to help clarify how development would be interpreted within the rigorous definitions of the development permit bylaw. We also broke out in the bylaw as it exists today. We had one set of performance standards, so setbacks and coverage requirements for all of the properties. That's no longer the case. We've crafted individual performance standards for each of the 3 sites that are still to be developed. The 2 sites that have already been developed reflect either existing decisions or matters that have been decided by a tribunal. So those changes are not, I would say at this point, material to what's existing in the bylaw. Beyond that, I will say that we've had a great deal of participation with the property owners. Before we crafted the provisions, we reached out to them to see what their 5, 10, and 20-year plan was for the site. Some have imminent development plans, some do not, which makes crafting standards to be difficult. You're kind of looking at a crystal ball, trying to provide enough structure that, unlike the existing provisions, which are sky is the limits, and provide challenges for interpretation. We want to kind of provide some guardrails for going forward, but we don't want to pigeonhole a development into a particular lane. So with that in mind, I think what you see before you is a good compromise. In particular, I want to hit on a couple things. Height is always a big discussion, and it certainly was during OPA 08, where we did make changes to strategic properties at the OP level. Through consultation and feedback from the community, we've reduced the building height to 16 stories, which functionally is about four floors. Step backs are required for anything beyond 3 stories at a 45-degree plane as measured from the street line.
Yeah, you said 16 stories.
What did I say?
You said 16 stories. I was like,
Oh my gosh, no, let me clarify. Sorry, 16 meters, which is functionally about 4 floors. Crisis averted. I got hot there. So yeah, no, 16 meters, which I think is a much better compromise. It provides, versatility on the site to allow for some apartment building type accommodations, but is also reflective of the fact that the majority of these properties are surrounded by low density, low rise buildings. The other thing I do want to note is a bit of a brief on density. So the density has already been described and prescribed in the official plan. It is set for these sites at 1 unit per 40 gross hectares of development lands. What we have done to bring alignment to our policies, which has been a problem in the past, is specifically lay out a density maximum in the performance standards. And that is calculated on a site-by-site basis at 1 residential unit per 250 meters squared of lot area. When you calculate that out on a per hectare basis, that is 1 dwelling unit per 40 hectares. So, I think we're bringing great alignment there. That's not to say that on a building by building basis, you may be able to achieve a built form that reaches a higher density, also in accordance with the plan, as described in the hypothetical example. But overall, the site is to maintain a density of 40 units per gross hectare in accordance with the official plan. If council wanted to vary the standard as proposed in the development permit bylaw, I caution you that you want to be careful to do that in alignment with the official plan so that we don't get into that same issue we had before. But I think at this point, we haven't had any negative feedback from what is projected, and that same approach was used in the new development permit bylaw as well across all the zones. So I do think it's important to maintain that consistency across the policy. So with that, Mr. Chair, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them. There is a full summary of public consultation included in this as well for council's reference. The larger document has previously been presented because it represents the upfront consultation, but the additional written comments that we received during the public consultation on this application are also included.
Thank you for that, Nikki. I will read the suggested motion first and then open it up for discussions or questions. The suggested motion is that council pass a bylaw to amend development permit bylaw 15-2015 in accordance with DPA 03-2025 for strategic properties as outlined in the report by Director of Development Services dated November 4th, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Moved by Councillor Kavanaugh, seconded by Councillor Atkinson. And is there any discussions or questions for Nikki on that at this time? Councillor Comley, please.
What's the rationale behind not allowing any retail in any of the developments?
Thank you. That was a carry forward. It was something that we removed when we did the new DP update. I'm not quite sure the specific rationale for including or excluding retail rather. Retail, it tends to vary in the current definition. It's very broad. It could be, a big box commercial store, or it could be a little mom and pop shop right now. On some of the sites, I'd say it's a moot point because I think they could accommodate both. On some of the others, I think you want to be a little bit more selective. In the future, if somebody was interested in building a retail component, they could certainly add it as a permitted use. The reality with strategic properties is that the type of development we're going to see there is going to necessitate a class 3 permit anyways, and that would be the same process to add a permitted use. Otherwise, if council does want to add it back in, we can do so, but I would caution that our definition is so broad that it could open up to things that may not be appropriate. Otherwise, you'll notice in some of the strategic properties, we have added site-specific uses. So if there's one particular site where you think retail would be appropriate, we can certainly amend the bylaw to add it to that particular site rather than the other ones.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thanks. It's kind of following up with that. What about removing permitted uses on certain sites? Because just as I look at this, to broadly stroke, for example, something like the DRS building, for instance, but by where it's located, fast food, takeout, that the traffic that brings does not, in my mind, make sense in a residential area like that, whereas something like a sit-down cafe might, just for pedestrian traffic in the park. So I'm concerned about some of those permitted uses in some of these locations, just for the traffic.
Through the chair, yeah, again, certainly if council wants to give direction to remove certain uses, all or from some sites, we can certainly look at doing that. Again, I'd caution takeout in particular. We have a lot of small restaurants that provide services or opportunities for people to take out food, but not necessarily in like a drive-through setting. Those are the types of uses that I think would be great fits here, especially in the case of DRS being so close to the park. Wool Growers is another one. If you can quickly grab sandwiches or a pizza even and go eat in the park, I think that's the type of thing we want to encourage. And that wouldn't be accommodated in a quote full service restaurant. I hear you on fast food, and I'd have to double check what the definition is in the new bylaw because all three of those defined uses are new. At a high level, I'd say remove fast food and leave takeout. But if that's something that council wants to give direction on, we can certainly accommodate it at this point.
Yeah, I would, that one and the one on Roseman. Like you see it happen where these kind of quick stops in and out. You get a lot of that parking running in and it causes issues. And anywhere where you're kind of narrower streets, more densely long, older residential neighborhoods, I don't think that those kinds of uses are good uses, nor do they kind of fit in with at least my vision for what those neighborhoods would hopefully evolve into with this kind of development. So I would just, I don't know, look to everybody else to hear their thoughts on it. But that for one stood out to me as being an issue. And additionally, we prescribe for parking, but we never prescribe for active transportation, like a requirement for cycling. I know that electric infrastructure for car charging stations is kind of an expensive thing to install, but the reality is this is the way a lot of transportation is going. And are we considering prescribing that has to be a consideration in large residential developments where you could have 100 people, and just by the way the world's going, probably 30 of them at this point have an electric car or a bike or something.
Through the chair, so yes, we've always prescribed in the general provisions requirements for cycling infrastructure. They don't necessarily appear in the section of the bylaw that's being amended tonight. As far as EV vehicles go, that was something that we added to the brand new bylaw. And again, it was added as part of a general provision, so I'd say hold tight. Once that bylaw comes into effect, those provisions will exist. But I'd caution that given the scope for what we've circulated, we don't want to wander too much further into the bylaw to impose changes at this point.
Mayor Randall?
Thank you. I was gonna ask a few questions with regards to the permitted uses as well, just the rationale for some of the changes, but you brought a few of them up. Thank you for bringing that up. Councillor Kavanaugh, as far as the fast food, I don't know that the wool growers would be as much of an issue kind of where it is. There's already like a Tim Hortons right nearby. There's other ones, but yes, DRS, Roseman, I don't even know if there's space or it would make any sense there just because of the building layout and the property. But these are supposed to be kind of highlighted properties. And I see more of a sit down, if you want to have a restaurant in that on the DRS property, that would make sense. So I would also take that one out personally, and if you want to move it, I would second it and we can discuss the fast food end of it. Everything else I'm fine with, and as Nikki has mentioned, we don't want to be fiddling too much with things at this point. My question is there a prescribed minimum for commercial on these sites?
Thank you. Through the chair, the prescribed minimum for commercial comes from the OP. So we have added language within the DP that directly reflects what's in the OP for consistency, but yes, some of them do.
It's nice to have some services or other amenities within these sites that the people that are going to be living in them and around them can utilize. That's good. So, and beyond that, the densities, we quickly had a conversation before, makes sense. I appreciate that. I know this has been a long time in coming to close this file off. I know there's a lot of work internally to get to this point. I just want to say thank you very much for all the efforts and work that have gone into the document. And ultimately, we're trying to do what's best for our community long term. And I think that this document helps us do that. So thank you very much.
Councillor Comley?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Sarah's point. I agree that fast food doesn't make sense at DRS and Rosamond. Made it wool growers. I can see it fitting in there. What is a club? Is that a dance club or a chess club, or what are we doing with clubs?
If you give me 1 second, I'll find the definition in the new bylaw. So per the new bylaw, it's a building or part of a building used as a meeting place by an association of persons who are bona fide members, which owns, hires, or leases the building or part thereof, and uses the premises being restricted to members and their guests for social, cultural, recreational, businesses, or athletic purposes. So I would suggest an example could be the Legion, would probably be the best example, but there are a handful of them within our community.
Councillor Kavanaugh?
Yeah, so if I have someone to support, I would like to move to remove fast food restaurant from permitted uses and strategic properties.
And that motion would be seconded by Mayor Randall. And so is there any discussions on this?
I would ask to make a friendly amendment to that to remove the wool growers site as that, because I think that would be okay, but the Rosamond and the DRS sites, I agree wholeheartedly. If you would accept the keeping it open to the wool grower site, I would second that amendment.
Are you fine, Councillor Kavanaugh, with that friendly amendment? So be it, okay. Is there any further discussion on the amended bylaw that we have this evening. I see Counselor Atkinson.
Yeah, I'm willing to support the amendment. It depends on what the definition is of fast food at the end of the day, because I would hate for that to preclude the placement of something like a food truck on a seasonal basis.
Oh, yeah, no.
But that's just it. So like, I'm willing to support it, support it, in terms of offering direction for the crafting of the bylaw for sure.
Can I,
Sorry. Mayor,
just as a follow-up to Jeff's comment, would we say like franchise fast food? Like, do you want, can you be specific or not? Because I would agree, I'd have no issue with, you know, food trucks being down there seasonally or whatever, but you want to do what's right. So Nikki?
Thank you. I have the definitions handy and I'll read you fast food, full service and takeout. They're all three right there. Fast food means a restaurant that sells food and beverages over a counter and its customers for consumption in the restaurant or for consumption off premise. A fast food restaurant does not include refreshment or food truck services, nor does it include a drive-through component. Restaurant full service means a restaurant that sells and serves food and beverages to patrons seated at tables for consumption on the premise. And a restaurant takeout means a restaurant that does not have seating capacity for diners and instead sells food and beverages directly to the consumer for consumption off premise or delivers food and beverage directly to the customer for consumption off premise, whether located in a building, motor vehicle, or trailer. So restaurant takeout would be the definition that is there to encompass food trucks, whereas restaurant full service would be a bricks and mortar building where you are receiving your food and leaving the premises, say, such as Spartan Pizza or Domino's or something of that nature.
thank you for that clarification, Nikki. Counselor Comley?
Yeah, I feel like that definition changes things a bit because that would exclude ma and pa shops like the Noodle House and the Indian restaurant and any place like that. I understand where we're coming from. We're trying to get rid of the big chain fast food franchises, but we can't separate those things.
Mayor Randall, I'll get you right after.
I guess my question would be like, say, because I agree with you on that, like, would the Noodle House not constitute a restaurant? It has a seating, you're able to either sit in or take out. Like, I know what like fast food is. I think everybody understands what fast food restaurants are, right? Like I think, and I get it, the definition, but I would see the Noodle House as a sit-in restaurant that you can also take stuff out. I don't want to preclude that. I don't want people driving through for. Anyways, I guess we'd look at direction from the staff as to, can you narrow it down a little bit more to state a specific type of restaurant?
Through the chair. No, you can't get specific into brand shaming. Or sorry. I'm trying to think of a better way to say that. You can't be so specific that you're precluding a specific restaurant. I think the fact that there's clear delineation between all three of those uses and drive-through is going to make a big difference. And I think we've clarified that by reading those definitions. I do think that there's value in maintaining food truck as a fast food as a permitted use, because I do think you are going to find restaurants that are small takeout sandwich shops that don't have consistency with the definition elsewhere. You know, if you wanted a operation like the bakery on Lake Avenue to occur on one of these sites, that's the only way you're going to do it. But by definition, it means fast food, not takeout restaurant. So I mean, we can continue to go back and forth. Again, you know, the direction that we've got right now is that fast food be removed from DRS and 150 Rosamond. It remains at Wool Growers. I think that's a good compromise.
Thank you, Nikki. Councillor Kavanaugh, then I'll go to you, Mayor Randall.
Thank you. If I could just clarify, by the definition that Nikki just read, the bakery is takeout because it does not have seating in the establishment. The Noodle House is not fast food because it doesn't serve you over the counter, it serves you at your table. Shawarma. But my point is, there are plenty of opportunities all throughout Carlton Place for those establishments. I go to them. I have no beef. I'm saying in these two locations, in my mind, out of all the permitted uses, that use doesn't reflect what I would envision the neighborhood to evolve into with that. Bakery's still there, you know, artisan studios still there, those sorts of things. I'm just saying that if you leave fast food, you are more likely than not to get the type of fast food that we all recognize as fast food. And there's no shade there. It's just, I don't see it as being, it's different if you're nipping off the highway. It's different if you're, again, off Franktown Road going to Tim Hortons. If you're going down Emily Street or you're going down Rosamond Street, that is not, in my opinion, that is not the vibe of that neighborhood. So anyways, I just want to clarify that was where I was coming from. I was throwing no shade at the takeout. God love them. The fast food saves my life. But just those neighborhoods, it just would become messy, I think.
Thank you for that, Councillor Kavanaugh. Mayor Randall, did you have anything to say, or can we call this vote?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this one because I agree based on the definition, you're encompassing more than what is traditionally a fast food restaurant. I would agree with Councillor Kavanaugh that the bakery is a takeout. I would say that Noodle House is a full service restaurant that also allows you to take stuff out. But I would agree with Councillor Kavanaugh that those two specific locations, that the true definition of what we're looking to remove, I would keep it in, and if people don't want to vote in favor of it, I'm okay with that.
Okay, is there any other questions before we call the amended motion to remove fast food from those two strategic locations? See none. All in favor of the amended motion to remove fast food from those two strategic locations?
Have you passed did the amendment carry? That is what we're doing right now. That's what we're voting on right now. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Got that one right. All in favor? Opposed? And that motion has been defeated. So I will go back to the original motion that council pass a bylaw to amend development permit bylaw 15-2015 in accordance with DPA. Sorry, I got it wrong. 1 second, Nikki, go ahead.
Thank you. Not to cut you off, Mr. Chair, but there was a question tabled earlier about retail. Did we get closure on what we were doing with retail? Currently, it is not permitted on any of the sites. Are we adding it back into the list, either in entirety or on a site-specific basis? Excuse me, I've been asked to provide a definition for it. Yes, I can do that. Give me 1 second. A retail store means a building or structure designed, used, or intended for the selling or buying of goods, wares, merchandise, articles, and things that retail, or the providing of services primary to or from the public, and use accessory thereto, including all retail stores not defined elsewhere within the bylaw. Sometimes this is why we need a master's degree in planning to be able to understand what's being written.
Thank you for that definition, Nikki. Councillor Comley.
Based on your answer before, though, retail could be included with an amendment on a site by site basis. So I was comfortable with that.
Is there any other discussions for that? Counselor Kavanaugh.
Everyone's gonna be, shut up, Sarah. This totally different question, but also going through this and specifically again with the DRS property, all sounds good, you know, all those things except for I question the additional opportunities for lot creation. Where exactly? Like if you redevelop the existing structure with commercial on the bottom and residential on the top and you have green space and all that and parking, where would lots exist?
Thank you, through the chair. It's an excellent question. And you'll notice that it's been added both to the DRS site and the wool growers, where frontage is very limited. There's not a lot of yards that front on a public street. In both cases, I think the long-term development of those sites will necessitate either a condominium road that provides access to the property for separate holdings, or alternatively, the dedication of a public road. The intent of this was to provide that should be considered an option, and we would welcome discussion of that through future development applications. But I think the sites are large enough that you could easily dedicate road infrastructure and facilitate freehold ownership of the site.
Follow up, Counselor Kavanaugh?
But that would be something that would be discussed if a development application came before us, the specifics of that, and we could go into the specifics of how we all feel about condominium roads and waste collection and other things at that time?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And any other questions or discussions before I read the original motion again? Seeing none. The original motion that council pass a bylaw to amend development permit bylaw 15-2015 in accordance with DPA 03-2025 for strategic properties as outlined in the report by Director of Development Services dated November 4th, 2025. All in favor of the suggested motion? Opposed? See none. Thank you. That motion has carried. Thank you, Nikki. And moving right along, report number 5, barriers as security measures for childcare services, communication 136116. We have Tracy Frill, Manager of Child Care Services, to go over this report. Tracy?
Good evening, everybody. So my report proposes the purchase and installation of concrete barriers at our Carleton Place Childcare Services program that is located at the Carenbeck Community Center. The barriers would be in place at the end of the parking spaces that are adjacent to the side of the building and the playgrounds. This measure was intended to enhance safety for the children and staff as recommended by the Ministry of Education. This is in response to the recent, I don't know if you've heard, but the recent tragic incident at a childcare center in Richmond Hill. The Ministry of Education has issued recommendations to improve safety protocols for childcare facilities across Ontario. Specifically, the ministry advises that any center with parking spaces that were adjacent to playgrounds or buildings install physical barriers to prevent vehicles from accidentally entering these areas. And as you know, Carleton Place Childcare Services is committed to providing a safe and secure environment for all children, families, and staff. So installing these concrete barriers will significantly reduce the risk of vehicle-related accidents near the playgrounds and buildings and aligns with the ministry's direction for enhanced safety measures. The total cost for all the barriers is $14,650. And it's proposed that the cost be funded from any year-end surplus or our reserves potentially. Attached to your report was also photos and a letter from the ministry. And I would like to add that I also did go and seek Public Works feedback. And it was confirmed that the parking lot that is actually next to the playground, even with the chain link, was a risk. So they recommended sort of knee-high barriers there. And there are unfortunately like 16 spaces all along the fenced area. And then on the side that is adjacent to the building, they were content with barriers just in front of the windows as the wall is brick. So that would be a sufficient barrier.
Thank you for that, Tracy. I'll read the suggested motion and then open up to council for questions or discussions. The suggested motion is the council authorize the purchase and installation of concrete barriers at the Carenbeck School Age Program as outlined in the report by Manager of Child Care Services dated November 4th, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder on those? Deputy Mayor Tennant and Councillor Sekaspina. Is there any discussion or questions we have for Tracy this evening? Deputy Mayor Tennant?
Yeah, I think this is a good solution. I think it's fairly cost effective for what it is. It doesn't require any maintenance. I totally support it.
Mayor Randall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree wholeheartedly with the Deputy Mayor Tennant. When I looked at the photo of the one in front of the chain link, do we know how wide these are? Because it just, in my mind, I can't picture that they won't be sitting partially on that sidewalk. Right. It looks like from the photo, it looks like we've got like maybe 12 inches of green space. It's the base. So that's my only question is that obviously safety is paramount and we want to make sure that, you know, that all of our users are safe. Will any of those barriers be encroaching on the sidewalk, I guess?
So the answer to that is no. The barriers are strictly at the very end prior to the curb. So they go right in front of the curb and they are knee high, the ones that are along the parking lot. The ones that are in front of the window are about waist height.
So they're going not in front of the fence.
Not, yeah, sorry, nowhere near the sidewalk.
Thank you very much. That clarifies things for me.
Thank you for that. Any other question or discussion for Tracy? Councillor Atkinson.
Yeah, in terms of where the money's coming from for this, like now that you've described how it's going to look, fine with the concept and the idea. It's just we're in terms of any surplus, this would be any surplus in the childcare operating budget, just to clarify, or the childcare reserves, not the overall admin reserves. Okay, thank you.
So the answer to that question was yes. Okay. Any other discussions or questions for Tracy? See none, all in favor of the suggested motion? Opposed? See none. Thank you. That motion is carried. Thank you, Tracy. And we are on to report 6, our CAO's report, Delegated Authority, Communication 136117, to be presented by Diane Smithson, our CAO. Diane?
So I just want to remind council that we adopted a new procurement bylaw this year. And so this report is in accordance with changes that were outlined within that procurement bylaw. So since my last report, there were 4 items that were approved by delegated authority, resulting in savings of $117,575.38 for this particular report. Though I want to make it clear that there are 2 projects that are not complete at this time, the town hall renovations and the canoe club balcony and railings. So that amount may change. Year to date, from my previous report, we've got savings of just over $1 million from proposed budget to actual costs. So good news story for the town, and I'll just open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Diane. Love seeing that. Thank you very much for the staff's hard work on getting these projects under budget. Is there any discussions or questions for Diane? See none? I'll read the suggested motion. The council received the information, the CAO's delegated authority report dated November 4th, 2025. I get a mover and seconder on that. Councillor Conley, Councillor Atkinson, all in favor? Opposed? See none? Thanks, Dan. That motion's. And we are on to new and other business. Again, Diane Smithson, CAO, Roma delegation. Diane?
So just in thinking about this and having discussion with others, I have 3 suggestions and you can decide whether you want them, and you can certainly add any others to the list. So I understand that there is going to be a second intake of the Community Sport and Recreation Program. We applied on the first round, but there was only $200 million in the grant program, and I'm sure it was well subscribed. And so I'm sure they simply ran out of money. I think we had a really good application, but for example, Township of Russell on the far side of Ottawa got 1/20th of that amount of money. So if you're considering 444 municipalities across the province, that's not going to go very far. So apparently there is supposed to be an announcement for that program coming up, probably in conjunction with the Parks and Recreation Ontario conference, which is happening later this month. And so whether council wants to have a delegation with the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Gaming to talk about our proposed project, just to bring it to the forefront and hopefully gain some attention. Another one would be an example of talking about OPP facilities and the process that we recently went through. And that would be a delegation potentially with the Ministry of Infrastructure, if council had any appetite to put in a request for that. And then my third one is about talking with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding industrial and commercial lands outside of municipal boundaries in order to meet our provincial policy statement requirements for those types of lands within a municipal boundary. So those would be the 3 suggestions that I have, and council has any others?
Thank you for that, Diane. Is there any discussion on the 3 delegations? Councillor Kavanaugh?
Yeah, I certainly would support a delegation to the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport to support that application. I agree. I think it's a great application, and I am very supportive of recreation in our community. I think it enhances the quality of life. It reduces healthcare strain, improves mental health, and reduces loneliness, which is an epidemic, especially in our senior population. So I think that is a big priority and should be one that we try and pursue and get in their face about.
Thank you for that, Councillor Kavanaugh. Anybody else? Mayor Randall?
I'd open up the one with the OPP for discussion, or at least wonder if that's one that we want to highlight. I know it's been a frustrating process. I don't know if our complaints about it are going to change a thing at that level. I think it would be good of us to forward our concerns in some manner, but I don't know if a delegation is the spot to do it. And I just open, that's just swimming around my head. I don't know if anybody else has any comments or has a feeling one way or the other. I think that would be one I might leave off, and the other 2 absolutely. And I'd be open to any others.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Councillor Atkinson?
Yeah, I'd echo that on the OPP. It just might seem that we're going over people's heads to do it in the form of a delegation. The only other suggestions I would add is when's the deadline for applying for these? Is it like right at the 18th? Is you may want to consider seeing if Mississippi Mills is putting in a delegation with respect to the Mill of Kintail and the museum there. to look to secure for provincial funding. It is something that impacts us. We're after the city of Ottawa, we're the largest contributor to the Conservation Authority budget. So it might be worthwhile joining with them if they're going to be making a delegation with respect to getting provincial funding for the museum, because it's something the Conservation Authority can't, and quite frankly isn't willing to do anymore. That would be the only other suggestion I would make is if there's any way to assist to have to join the county in a delegation to speed up the process of getting stoplights at the intersection of Town Line Road and Highway 7. It's county road and a provincial highway, because it is, I'm someone who uses that quite frequently. It's just getting damn dangerous at that intersection for people, and I think it needs to be flagged.
Next one. Oh, sorry.
So I'm happy to get in contact with Mississippi Mills, but because the facility is located within their boundaries, I think the request should come from them and we could simply join them in that delegation as supporters. Yeah, and I think for the county, I would say that's a suggestion that the mayor and deputy mayor can take back to the county for their discussion on delegation requests. And again, we could certainly be there and support, but I don't think it's our request to make.
Thank you for that, Diane. Mayor Randall?
Yeah, so just so everybody's aware, I think this was going back 3 years now that the MTO said that set of lights was in the queue. They did not, I think originally they gave us a time frame of, they thought around 2025. But that it was with the works that was happening on Highway 7. As luck would have it, with a document that's coming just right after this through the EOWC. I have a contact with the MTO now and they actually said reach out anytime you have any concerns. I would also say that a delegation probably isn't a bad thing, just to reiterate or find out time, but I would be glad to reach out to new said contact to just kind of see where it is in the process. But I'd support a delegation request on that as well, just strictly out of safety and timeliness.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Councillor Comley?
Yeah, from the list you presented, I absolutely agree with the rec and culture delegation and with the industrial lands outside the border. I think that's an important topic for us to be discussing. My question with the OPP delegation would be, what is the benefit, and is it for us directly, or is it just about the process we went through and making it better for other people? Because I'd be more inclined to agree if there's benefit for us.
I think it's too late for us, unfortunately. It would be to improve the process for others going forward, to just make suggestions similarly to what we did last year with the our repayment limit, about changing the formulas to help all municipalities. I think, yeah, that's what the purpose would be.
Then I'd be in favor of replacing the OPP with the stoplight delegation.
But don't you think the stop sign one should be the county request, because it's the intersection of a county road with MTO, and we would join them in that delegation?
Mayor Randall?
We can inquire. The MTO's letter was to us, so it wasn't to the county. It was they were saying, hey, Mayor of Carleton Place, you're getting a set of lights at this intersection. So I can ask. You're right, it is a county road and MTO. It has technically nothing to do with Carleton Place, but because it came to us, I think, and we're the most directly impacted. But we can talk to the county too and have it back to you by the deadline. And again, if I can, Mr. Chair, just on what Dana was saying, I would recommend that we remove the OPP one completely. I think there is a benefit to expressing and writing something to them, or sitting down in a meeting with them. I don't think a delegation is that spot, but I do think we should let folks know there that, how our interaction with them could have been improved in certain ways, but not through a delegation.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Deputy Mayor Tennant.
Yeah, with that one, I think we should wait until we're done with whatever business we have with IO and the OPP. And if by the time we finish the process, we feel that we have something to say, we can do it next year. We're not even done yet, so I don't think we can fully comment. But otherwise, I support all the delegations.
Anything further? Nothing? Diane, you have direction? You're good?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I don't know if you want to just do a motion to put that in, and for the one regarding the lights at Highway 7, that we'll put it in if the county is not going to make the request.
I'm hoping you have that motion, that you can read it and.
So that the following delegation requests be made for the 2026 Roma conference. It would be with the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Gaming with respect to the Community Sport and Recreation Grant Program. With the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to discuss provincial policy statement requirements for industrial commercial lands within municipal boundaries in the hopes that they would entertain. Well, I mean, we'll word it better, but the whole thing is about allowing them outside, but still for our purposes. And then lastly, it's about with Ministry of Transportation with respect to the traffic lights at the intersection of Town Line Road and Highway 7, if the county is not going to make that delegation request.
And I couldn't have said that better myself. Thank you very much. Do we have a mover and seconder on that, please? Councillor Kavanaugh, seconded by Councillor Sakaspina. All in favor? Opposed? See none. Thank you. And that is carried. Thanks, Diane. And we are moving on to committee, board, and external organizational updates. We have updates from the BIA from their September 15th, 2025 board meeting. The suggested motion is that the following minutes be received. BIA, September 15th, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder on those, please? Moved by Mayor Randall, second by Councillor Comley. Any discussions? See none. All in favor? Opposed? See none. And that motion has carried. We are on to information listings from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, Parliament Hill Advocacy on October 24th, 2025. The suggested motion is that the information listing dated November 4th, 2025 be received. Can I get a mover and seconder for those, please? Moved by Mayor Randall, second by Councillor Atkinson. Any discussion or question? Any discussions on that? See none. All in favor? Opposed? See none. That motion has carried. Thank you very much. We will be moving into closed session for labor relation matters. The suggested motion is that the committee move into closed session at 7:14 p.m. to discuss a matter subject to the Municipal Act Section 239-2, labor relations or employee negotiations, and that the following persons be permitted to participate in the meeting: Diane Smithson, CAO, Laura Scull, Manager of Human Resources. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Atkinson, Deputy Mayor Tennant. All in favor? And that motion is approved. We will be heading into closed session. Thank you.
Amanda, can you hear us?
I can now, yeah.
Thank you. Out of closed session, rising report, Diane Smithson.
Staff direction was provided in closed session.
Thank you very much. And we're at adjournment. The suggested motion is that the meeting be adjourned at 7:49 PM. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Atkinson, second by Deputy Mayor Tennant. Any discussions? No, see none. All in favor? And that motion has. Thank you. Have a great evening.